Got book, David.
So that's a little bit of an insight of what I get up to. I really don't want to bring this up, but one of my first assignments was this match where, despite Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, Argentina beat you guys 3-2. I was a very young kid on the pitch, and it was, of course, Maradona's World Cup. It was his World Cup final. And I took that picture with a wide-angle lens, and that's quite instructive because throughout my career, wide-angle lenses have been far more important than telephoto lenses, and I'll come on to that in a minute. I left sports photography behind. There were too many other good sports photographers, many of them working for Stern, many of them German, and I've moved on to other things. I did, however, go back and do an assignment in Borussia Dortmund Stadium about a year and a half ago, and you'll know the yellow wall, of course. And I just wanted to try and get as many people in focus in one image. I think there's about 15,000 people there. And if you were on the stadium that day and celebrating, I think when they scored their third goal against Eintracht Frankfurt, you can find yourself in the picture, which is testimony to the D850 I was using and also the 58. Now, I don't know if any of you can tell me what that's the cue for, but because we're short of time, you probably all want to go and have some lunch. I'm going to make it snappy. It was taken in Boxing Day 1975 in Los Angeles. That is the cue for the opening night of Steven Spielberg's Jaws. Spielberg was 26 years old, 27 years old at that time, and that film went on to gross 400 million. It's still the 20th best-selling film of all time, and it was made by a 27-year-old, 6-year-old in 1975. Why is that relevant? Because he's my hero. And I think we should all have heroes, all have people that we aspire to. And then, of course, he went on to produce an extraordinary catalogue of films, whether it be the Indiana Jones series, whether it be E.T., whether it be Schindler's List. There were so many great movies that he's done, Saving Private Ryan. And Tom Hanks, who he's worked with throughout his career, was asked, what is it about Steven Spielberg that makes him the cinematographer, the director of the last 30 years? And Tom Hanks said, because he had a fluency in the language of what it took to elicit an emotional reaction. An emotional reaction. And that resonates with me because photography is not really about Nikon or Leica or Canon or Hasselblad. It's about your emotions. And that's what he got very right. Photography without emotion is nothing. I also photographed some great white sharks. I only needed to get one picture, but it was a real one, not a rubber one. That was in about 2010, and it was a tough goal, 30 hours in the water, but we got there in the end. Chivo, who was the cinematographer in The Revenant, is another one of my heroes. It was quite a grueling film, but there were so many parts of that film where the camera was very close to Tom Hardy's face or DiCaprio's face. So you felt you were there. I think we live in the era of immersion. We're so content spoiled that we want to feel as if we're there. And that's where I think wildlife photography had gone a bit wrong. It was a little bit boring. People like Nikon produce fantastic long lenses, but if you're going to photograph DiCaprio, you're going to photograph him from 2 foot away. You should try and do the same with an animal if you can. You've just got to get around that riddle of proximity and safety. This was an image I took in South Sudan at the end of the Civil War in 2014. It was taken with the 58, which I think is a fantastic lens. It's my go-to lens in terms of the optical precision. And because of the light, I was able to use f11. And that picture goes on and on and on. There's a biblicality to it. And whilst it's a fairly hellish place, there's a degree of serenity with the consistency of the smoke going back and back and back. On animals, I want to be close. I want to be so close that you feel you can almost touch them. When you're photographing or when you meet the person that you love, the first thing you look at is their eyes, and vice versa. It should be no different in an animal. You should try and have your focus pin sharp on those eyes, and ideally have those eyes very close to you. I'm not there, I'm using pocket wizards on my wide angle lens, and I'm about 30 yards away. Same with a black panther. I'm not there, but I'm shooting that black panther with a 35mm wide angle lens. So you get a real sense of what a stunning cat it is. Same with an American bison. American bison, to me, it could be something out of the Ice Age. That head is like something out of Game of Thrones. And the only way I thought I could convey that was to be on the ground looking up at those huge eyes, not to the side. This reminds a lot of women of their husband on a Monday morning. We call it Grumpy Monkey, and it was taken in Japan, slightly further away than the other ones, but the same point. It's about feeling the character of the animal. I like to work against the light as much as possible, particularly in Africa. That's the place I'll be next week, in Amboseli. And that actually, the data's wrong on that. It's a 28mm wide angle lens shooting directly into the sun. These guys are sponsored by Prada. They're the gelada monkeys that live right at the top of in Ethiopia, about 15,000 foot. And again, I wanted to get a sense of context, scale, the drop from where I was to the escarpment below. They're stunningly beautiful animals. But he's got a kind of attitude that says, get out of my life. What are you doing here? Why is a human even near where I am? And that's conveyed by that face and those eyes. He's quite proprietary over where he's living. I think mothers enjoy this picture because the most important job in the world is to be a mother. And I think that picture really resonates in terms of the inherent sense of protectionism between the adult female matriarch and her kid. It's taken with a long lens, quite a long lens, I think that's a 400. This was taken with a 20mm lens. So you go from one end of Nikon's lens system to the other. And I wanted to, I'm not there, otherwise I wouldn't be here, but by having the camera on the ground looking right up at the elephant, you get a sense of just how majestic and enormous those animals are. I do quite a lot of staged work. This is in Montana where I work quite a bit. This picture is a special image because it's used totally with natural light, window light, and 1600 ISO. So you get an idea of how strong the D850 is in limited light conditions. The guy on the right, I'm not sure whether he's alive or not, but he was static the whole time I took the picture, which that helped me in my process. When I'm photographing lions, it's like the reverse of a zoo. I will be in the cage and they'll be outside the cage. And sometimes we've had some hairy moments. I only work with lions that are Nikon users. Any lions that use Canon or anyone else, I don't want to work with. So I've got a group of female lionesses that help me on my day-to-day life in Africa. So there again, you can see I'm in the cage. My assistant's got to close that door just in time. But in order, by being on the ground, close to the lions, I can get imagery that otherwise to me, that's how you photograph a lion. You don't photograph it from a jeep high up here looking down. That's how to take portraits of lions. What a beautiful animal. As I get older, and there's not many good benefits of getting older, one of them is you should become a better photographer because your personality is an aggregation of all the mistakes you've made. We all make mistakes, but you never want to make the same mistake twice. I love working in bad weather because it's more atmospheric. This is in Iceland where Game of Thrones and Star Wars have recently been filmed. But much better to photograph in Iceland when the weather's stormy like that, or indeed up the road in the waterfall. So this is 10 days ago, near where the big oil refiner is in Prudhoe Bay. I like to go where no other people go, the road less traveled. That's how you're going to get the best content. And this is about as close as I really want to get. But you can see I've got a 58. He's about 5 years old. He knows I've got some chocolate in my pocket. That's what he's really interested in. But then you get that immersion. I've actually took a selfie of myself in the polar bear's eyes, which shows kind of how nuts I am. This picture was taken in a moving boat. I think we had a lot of light that day, and holding a long lens in a boat that's bouncing around in 30-mile-an-hour winds, it's not easy. It's a lucky shot. Sometimes luck plays a big role in photography, as I'm sure you all know. But the next shot, I think I earned it because I've waited 3 or 4 years to get this next shot, and I had to keep my nerve on this one. But that picture, because it's head on, because I'm low on the ground, you get an idea of the magnitude of a polar bear. But what really impresses me about this picture, rather other than the fact I took it, of course, is the resolution, the information in that bear's face is phenomenal. And that's what the D850 does for you. So let's talk a little bit about Nikon's new camera range, the Z7. The first thing that I want to say is that cameras are just conduits. There are a lot of people in this room that are good photographers. They may be even better than me most of the time. It's not going to be the camera that's going to be the margin as to whether you're a great photographer. It's going to be your work ethic, your passion, your soul. But at the margin, cameras do make a difference. But when Apple announced a new iPhone, it kind of replaces all the ones beforehand because manifestly is better than all the ones beforehand. When Nikon introduced a new camera, it's not like the iPhone. It's not like turning around to all of you and saying, you've got to get Nikon's new camera. It complements what's already in the system. It's not a substitute. It complements what's already there. When I the first day I got it, there was no operating manual. And I find it tough enough turning on my television in the Marriott Hotel at the moment, so I'm not very good with operating manuals. Where I didn't need an operating manual. It's as you'd expect because it follows the same principles of all the Nikon cameras that you've used over the last 10, 12 years. So the first day I had it, it was my daughter's birthday party. Now the fathers in this room will know how important your daughter's birthday parties are. So I thought, well, I'll just have the camera lying around and we'll see if we can use it, see what happens. We had a country western theme, and what I thought I might do is try and take some pictures just before dark. This shot was taken on 1/8 of a second. 1/8 of a second, handheld. And if you look into the saloon area, those people are crystal clear, pin sharp. It's like a butterfly in your hand. The D850 is too heavy to take that kind of picture. So when you hear people talk about the Z7, the first thing they'll mention, and rightly so, is how light it is. We've all had excess baggage, metaphorically and literally, in our lives. And one thing is you don't want to have too much excess baggage in the field. There's no excess baggage. So that was 800 ISO, 1/8 of a second. Incredible quality. Not better than anything that Nikon could have done before. Even then working inside, easy to work, low light, a lot of information. Just taking pictures of kids by the beach. Incredible clarity. But then I thought, I've got to really take it to the test. So last week I was in Arizona and Utah doing a reshoot of Thelma and Louise. I'm sure many of you have seen what many people consider to be the great road trip film of all time. And I was working with a girl, Josie Canseco, who's very well known in America now, and we were recreating, many of you will know exactly where that road is. I'm sure some of you have been there. It was quite stressful because Thelma was no longer Thelma. Thelma was a wolf on this occasion. So we had to get the wolf in the car, we had to get the girl right, and the sun is rising all the time. So this picture was taken with the new camera. And what is astounding for me is not the fact that the wolf's whiskers are pin sharp. That's 2010, that's 2012. They should be pin sharp. It's that there's residue of dew on the whiskers that are pin sharp. There is so much information. If you take the next shot, it's not You can see the lower level of the number plate. Yeah, sure. It's the corrosion on the lower numbers in the number plate you can see. The clarity is best in class. This is the picture that actually you'll see around the world, which was taken on the D850. The D850 is a category killer as a camera. It is, in my view, the best SLR in the market. And when it came out, I almost thought it had been invented for me because we do our pictures very large. It is a fabulous piece of kit. So will I be getting rid of all my D850s and buying lots of Z7? No, you just add it to your bag because that is a best-in-class camera. Before I finish, I'm just going to play you one little video.
So my trip has been more than I could ever have expected. This in particular has been one of my dreams since I was a kid.
Whenever we come across, we keep our eyes peeled.
Animals are, part of our deepest connection to the planet, and I don't want to live in a world without those animals.
There's like a big family of 30 lion, 18 spotted hyenas, 2 striped hyenas, and 4 leopards.
There isn't a human or animal or any species on this planet that hasn't felt pressured in some way, but pressure doesn't have to be a bad thing. You can't let pressure crush you, you have to use it as a fuel.
So you start you in the cage, I bring him up to the position, that's your cue, and then you've literally got like 2 seconds.
That is to be more like that than it is like sitting.
Yeah, I agree.
Just do that. I'm going to shoot through this hole, I don't need it.
It's very difficult in 2017, 2018 for one still image to grab people's attention and hold it. But I think this image will.
Lions to me symbolize bravery and having no fear. They just have this amazing mystery and this kind of aloof attitude.
The worry for me is once you get to like here, is here not good?
You didn't get lions that they won't attack Kevin, but they will attack everyone else.
Okay, so how are your feelings of people?
As few as possible. You've got the demand for content against the safety of one of the most famous people in the world. So that maybe puts the added pressure on the safety perspective.
Car. Okay.
It's a blowout shot, and the person that deserves the most credit for it is Cara.
I've been familiar with David's work. I think he's an incredible photographer. The way he makes creatures around the world look so raw and real and exposed in a way but shows their strength. Working with people like that, it definitely just makes it feel like an experience rather than a job.
That was a lot of pressure that day because she is who she is, and working for Tag Heuer is an honour and a responsibility. But going down to South Africa, I knew I would certainly use the D850. I'm so familiar with it, I know its capability. I know the amount of information it can get into the camera if you get it right. And I knew my mass as well, that the 105, which is a beast of a lens, was going to be about right for me. We never quite expected it to come out as well as it did. And when that picture, that night, when we knew we had it, we were all ecstatic. If I can take 4 good pictures a year, that's my goal. And if there's one message I give to you all, I think maybe a mistake some photographers make is that they take too many pictures and they show too many pictures. If you go away for a week and you come back and you put 100 pictures on your website, are you really taking 15 great pictures a day? As I say, I want to try and take 4 a year. So I got 1 of them last year. Thank you very much. Enjoy the show.